Chris, I know in broad terms, and I'm going to get this right, what a MagnaClean magnetic filter technology does. Easy for me to say. But can you explain to us what the innovation was and how you brought it to the industry?
The MagnaClean, well, it's just a magnetic filter. It's a very simple device. It has a magnet in the heart of it, and the dirt in your heating systems that you spill all over your carpets when you do some decorating, it's all corrosion, and basically it's a very simple 1 + 1 = 2. It's metal, and the magnet captures that corrosion and keeps your system clean. So here's one we prepared earlier. This is what we used to demonstrate it. We've got some iron oxide in the system. This is about the same tolerance as our filter. There's a magnet. You put the magnet in, and hopefully magically the filter cleans the water.
That's his next trick.
And what's good about it is that the dirt becomes magnetic, a bit like when you put a magnet in your toolbox and your screwdrivers become magnetic. So it wants to stay there once it's caught, and then you just service it once again.
Can you just give us an idea, what gave you the idea, what sparked off the innovation that created the MagnaClean?
Genius, I think, is the...
Modesty clearly not an issue.
The magnet and rust is genius. Well, I suppose it was a bit of a light bulb moment, which hopefully some people have had in their own lives. But as a heating engineer, I used to clean people's heating systems out professionally, and part of the process was I used to use a magnet, just the type you would have in your toolbox on the end of a car aerial. You know, if you drop a screw down the side of your engine bay, you could fish it out with it. I used to have that in my toolbox, and used to be able to find blockages in people's heating systems using the magnet, because the copper tube that makes up most of your heating systems is not magnetic, but the dirt that's built up inside it is, so you can work out where the blockage is. And then I thought one day, well, if we had a filter that filtered the dirt out, then there'd be no need for it.
Diane, I'm sure many of us know the story of Supergroup. It's such an inspirational story that if you wouldn't mind repeating it.
It's been an amazing journey, as much as I can say, taking a business from SME to PLC, one of which I'm immensely proud of, and growing in Gloucestershire particularly. We have had our moments, ups and downs, learned from our mistakes, and I think that's part of the key to our success, as well as having a bit of good luck in the process. The real rise to stardom was creation of our Superdry brand about 8 years ago, when we decided that selling clothing in shops wasn't just good enough. We would have to create our own brand as well. We were very lucky. We created a few t-shirts. Those t-shirts turned into a range of clothing. People all over the world decided they'd quite like to have some, so we created an international brand. A year ago, we actually floated on the London Stock Exchange. It took out 6 months of my life, but something, there again, to have grown a PLC in Gloucestershire is great, and to grow a fashion company in Gloucestershire is also great.
You've both grown your businesses really rapidly. What lessons do you think you've learned that you can share with us?
Well, for me, it's about people. Making sure that know your customer, put a process in place, keeping your entrepreneurial ethos, but your people are absolutely key.
I would say for us, part of what you've just said, really knowing your customer and giving them a level of service they're not used to. And I suppose uniquely I was from the heating industry, so I was used to dealing with companies. When there was a problem, it was always not their fault, it was always something you'd done. And I guess right from the word go, we've had an ethos of just going that extra mile. So when people rang, they sometimes rang us with a problem, perhaps they'd sometimes ring quite an aggressive tone, maybe. But the way they were dealt with, they went away happy. We'd send them some chocolate. That wasn't my idea.
Oh, I know whose idea that was.
But it was just a nice little touch, and we get these loads of feedback. Have too many problems, thankfully, but the ones we did, we get feedback from them saying it was actually a pleasure to deal with you with this problem, you know, and you'd have these people buying from these people. So I think the key for us is just going that extra mile and focusing on doing something that the rest of the world, the rest of the industry didn't do very well.
You've both led your organisations as they've grown. What did you enjoy most about that?
Well, for me, it's about growing a very rapid business and putting the right structure into your business as you're growing so fast. If I had to have a highlight, I guess I would say this, it was taking the company to a full float and getting it away, as the city call it, and becoming the best European flotation last year. So that didn't come without its challenges, definitely.
We didn't see you for a year.
No, exactly.
Well, I guess for us, you know, I was as a heating engineer by trade, just a one-man band, and so to go from that to you know, reasonable size organisation, that's obviously had some challenges, as you can imagine. Our garden shed that Andrew and I, my lovely lady in purple there, still got the scars from fixing up the products in our shed when we started. So to go from that and actually have the right people in place, I completely concur with Diane, because if you don't have the right people, that process, I can imagine it just being absolutely impossible. And I don't know whether you found it as well with whether your employees had a passion for what they do. I think everyone here
You can't have a successful business without passion.
Is that a strap line you read on the internet?
It's
on the t-shirt.
It's on a super dry t-shirt.
Yeah, passion for fashion.
You are. Yeah, passion for filters, not quite the same.
As we said, Diane, you recently stepped down as COO of Supergroup after 20 years. And you've taken on quite a demanding role, a very high-profile role in the county as chair of the Gloucestershire Local Enterprise Partnership.
The Local Enterprise Partnership has been awarded to Gloucestershire in its own right to the county by central government for private sector to lead the way in terms of growing Gloucestershire going forward, creating jobs ultimately, but actually promoting skills, apprenticeships, making business work from an entrepreneurial point of view rather than a political point of view, and joining things up is the way I'd like to see it. Breaking down some barriers and everybody working together in hard times with no money, like everybody else.
And Chris, for Adey, what comes next for Adey? You've moved into these marvellous premises, you've grown the business. What are you looking for Adey now?
I would think personally a midlife crisis, I think, is one of those, and a miracle hair restoration. But for Adey, as a company, I mean, I suppose we're looking forward to continuing the story, I guess. What excites me is new products, so it's nice to have the ones we've got and they do well, but we're looking forward to developing new ones that will hopefully solve problems in the heating sector as well as perhaps other sectors as well. And we're looking forward to, which Diane did obviously very well, the whole global thing.
Yes.
And we have obviously plans to expand into Europe and America and places like that. So tell me how hard that was.
Give me a lesson.
Am I going to be in 20 years' time?
See some mentoring going on here, so it'd be good. Yeah. Does anybody have from the audience a question they'd like to ask either Diane or Chris?
How does a small company in Stroud have its say with the LEP?
The Chamber will go and support businesses going forward across the county in conjunction with the LEP, giving Suzanne support and bringing business together jointly and severally.
To what extent were higher skills critical for your company, and to what extent can you give us advice on how we can develop those locally and create a bridge between higher skills development in the county through FE and businesses?
I think from Supergroup's point of view, it actually grew up with not a huge skill base, it grew up with a lot of gut feel. It was only actually when it became a certain size that we had to start bringing in certain skill bases. And those skill bases were very specific. In some ways we've had to bring them in out of county with Supergroup, and that's something that I personally would very much like to bring in county. I think apprenticeship skills going forward are absolutely critical in terms of us building a solid business base in Gloucestershire.
Yeah, I don't know whether I'm answering your question, but we found that within Gloucestershire we've got the skills we need, and that's got to be testament to the companies that are already out there up and running. And but I guess our needs will change. I'm sure Diane had the same scenario. You have to adapt to the circumstances you find yourself in, and if any of you are business people, I'm preaching to the converted. I'm sure with that you just have to be able to do it. The advantage of a smallish company is that you can be a bit like a speedboat instead of an oil tanker in the sea. You've got the opportunity of changing direction quite quickly as there is a need, and we find ourselves perhaps in that situation now as we speak, actually needing to do that. So I'm not sure if that's answering your question, but I guess in terms of skills, as a company, I don't know whether Diane did this as well, but we got some non-executive directors in. We didn't assume that we know everything. I think it's an arrogant person that says, I'm quite good at this and I don't really need any help. We found that we've had a real benefit from getting non-execs in who have worked in bigger environments than we find ourselves in. So they've given us some invaluable support and given us advice from perhaps a legal perspective, but also from an industry perspective that has been, well, I can't tell you how much that's helped.
I think I'd just second that as well. Non-execs have actually created another dimension for Super Group, slightly different of course, becoming PLC and had to have a city-facing piece, and we actually had to bring in some people that had had a lot of PLC experience, and we needed that hand-holding.
How do you innovate, Chris? What's the process that drives you?
Run a hot bath, lie there with a pad. That's it. Latterly, or lately, as a company, we've employed an R&D team, and those guys have a particular skill set. We seem to have been quite fortunate that we've got a broad spectrum, a fairly broad spectrum of skills in that team. And I think one thing that we found is, and this is probably a lesson, again, I keep coming to Diane because I'm sure she's been through all of this before, but we find people are coming to us with their ideas. They've actually had an idea. Maybe they can't bring it to market, or it's not actually that good an idea. That's the right word. Not that good a product perhaps they bring to show, but the idea is fantastic and it just needs a bit of work. And we're looking at various products that guys have brought to us, humble heating engineers sometimes, and we're taking the idea or the concept sometimes and making something from it. So hopefully in the next year or two we'll bring out some more products that some of you may find interesting, but heating engineers hopefully certainly will.
I think to me innovation is about creativity as well, isn't it? And innovation is being an entrepreneur too. And any business must always keep that twinkle in its eye and keep its entrepreneurship as well as all that process that has to go into growing business.
Yes, I think being alert to an opportunity, recognising something good when you see it, I think is quite key. Because if you could miss an opportunity, you could walk out the door as the concept that's not finished. But if you could see through that and see what the potential of things, then that's where we're going.
Sally Reid, Gloucestershire Community Foundation. It's a question for you, Chris. I just wonder what you do for young people locally to inspire them to succeed.
Well, we're quite a young organisation ourselves, and we've been going since 2003, and we've doubled the size of our staff this year. So it's something we're looking to. Talking to one of the guys I'm seeing from one of the colleges, and just saying we're actually looking to the opportunities that young people can bring. Sometimes they're creative skills and they're off-the-wall thinking. It's probably just what we need, but we're at a stage where we're just starting down that process. So I come back in a year or 2 years and I'll probably give you a better answer. But there's opportunities here, hopefully, on their way.
I have to say I was one of the oldest people at Super Group. We employed so many young people, mainly under the age of 20.
You've done with it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, both Chris and Diane. It was really helpful. Thank you very much.